Well, good afternoon. And for some folks, I know it's evening because we're all in different spots. But thank you so much for being here with us today. I am excited to welcome our colleagues from Miramar College, San Diego Miramar College, and which I'll do in just a few minutes. But also just wanted to let you know a little bit about how this got organized and what we're up to today in terms of bringing you this information. So my name is Pam Luster, and I am your Pacific Southwest connection, I like to call it, coach for the Community College Presidents Initiative. And this is out of the National Science Foundation. And really, this was pulled together many years ago by a wonderful group of community college leaders across the national scene to bring more attention to community college funding around National Science Foundation grants. And so what we're trying to do with the webinars that we offer is to give folks on the ground really good advice from folks that have done well and who have already received grants, and the kind of partnerships that they have and the kind of work that they do together across campus. I think we all know sometimes it's not just about the money that you get from grants, but it's really about the collaboration and cooperation that leads you to doing new things. And it's exciting to have the funding to do that, but it also can be a challenge sometimes if we don't put the right people in the room, or we have cross purposes in terms of who wants to do what. It can always be a challenge. So just wanted to let you know that we are here to help. And the first way we'd like to do that is just put in the chat a SurveyMonkey survey. If you could all do that briefly, that gives us an idea of who's here with us today and what your interest might be going forward, so that we make sure that we provide the right kind of information to you as you try to do this work as well. So if you could click on that survey and fill it out, it's brief, but it really helps us out to know who's on the webinar today and, again, the kind of information that we can give you going forward. The Community College Presidents Initiative has an incredible website, and we'll put the link into that before we're done here today. There's so much information that you can gather from that. And also, I know that our colleagues from San Diego Miramar are going to talk a bit about some of the ways that they were helped through Mentor Connect and other kinds of work that they did as they were preparing for their NSF-ATE grant. So with that, we're excited to have you here today. Unfortunately, President Lundberg, who is the wonderful president of San Diego Miramar College, I would just like to say I was the chair of his hiring committee. So good job, good job. You can thank me later, but a wonderful professional, and was only too happy to come forward to say that he knew that his team would be ready to go. So I'm going to turn this over now to Claudia Estrada Howell, who will introduce her crew or take the presentation from here.
Thank you so much, Pam. I really appreciate this opportunity. As all really good projects, it can't be done without a fantastic team and group of folks. So I have the easy task today of introducing my team. We'll go ahead and move over to the PowerPoint. But if I could ask all of you one small favor, if in the chat you would be so kind to put your name, where you're from, just so that we kind of know who all of you are. My name is Claudia Estrada Howell. I'm the Dean of Business, Technical Careers, and Workforce Initiatives at San Diego Miramar College. Many of the CTE areas of our college fall under me, including our auto area. We have an extraordinary team of folks in our auto area. With this grant, we have had many hands in the work. And a better way to describe that is through some visuals here. So from this slide, you'll get 4 of us today. Pam mentioned President Lundberg. He's super important in this work. He is our fearless leader and is one of the most supportive college presidents. only second that I've worked with to Pam because I used to work with Pam. So he's been really fantastic. When you are going into an NSF grant, you really need to have that support right from the beginning. So um, he's our first and foremost team member here. Then we have two of our fantastic faculty from our auto program, our department chair, Martin Kennedy, who has been with our program for over 10 years. He's actually retiring soon. So we're gonna we're gonna bring him back. We're gonna bring him back somehow. And then we have Ryan Monroy as well. Marty, we warmly call him Marty, is our principal investigator. And Ryan was another wonderful faculty who also has connections with our high school students. He also teaches with high schools. He's our co-principal investigator. So they are the two that you will hear from primarily today. They've been through the Mentor Connect, they've been through the process, and you'll really hear from them. Then we have two folks that are not here today, Janet Malig, who is our external evaluator, and then Jonathan Kropp, who is our grant specialist. Jonathan Kropp was so extraordinary, and we couldn't have done it without him. He really helped a huge part of the lift in writing the grant. So we really did appreciate him. And he's going to continue to join our team as the years go by. And then we have Jen. Jen, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself? Her and I won't be talking after this, so that's why we'll hand it off to Marty and Ryan.
Yes, no problem. Hi, welcome everybody. Happy to be here today. My name is Jennifer Pena, and I am the Acting Associate Dean of Career Education here at Miramar College. I am fresh. I'm 2 months in the job, so I'm super excited learning a lot about the opportunities, the grant opportunities that happen on our campus and how we can leverage those funds to help our students. So I oversee in my role Strong Workforce and Perkins, which typically are used to leverage and complement some of these grants.
Thank you, Jen. So I'm gonna hand it off to Marty and Ryan. But right before I do that, I just want to say that, as you're all looking at our presentation today, or listening rather to our presentation today, I want you to really know that when we decided to go for this, one of the very important things and aspects of our final decision making and why we did do it is really looking at equitable access for our students to improvements in our CTE programs. And auto is one of these areas that just, technology is moving forward so quickly. And it's, as many of you might know that work, or maybe some of you aren't as familiar with CTE programs, they're very expensive programs. And teaming up a group of folks to really do this work for our students is really at the heart of this. So, okay, I'll stop there. I'll hand it off to Marty and Ryan.
Hello, everybody. This is Ryan Monroy. Excuse me. What we're looking at here, these are some pictures of Fifth Avenue, New York during some Easter Day parades. And the first one on the top is in 1900. And inside that sea of horses, I know it's difficult to look into these pictures, but in all of those vehicles you see in that picture, we've circled out, there's only one vehicle, one car, internal combustion engine powered vehicle in all of those horse and buggies. And in the year 1913, just 13 years later, can you even find the horse? You really have to look really hard to try and find a horse in that sea of internal combustion cars. So, and it's amazing that, we were using the horse for thousands of years as a means of transportation, and in just 13 years, the horse got disrupted by the internal combustion engine. So here's the question: by what year do you think EVs will outnumber gas-powered vehicles? Some experts believe that EVs could dominate by the year 2035. due to rapid technological advancements, declining battery costs, and stricter emission regulations. And some challenges that we need to overcome are going to be the infrastructure development to charge these vehicles, battery production, and these global energy grid capacities are key hurdles. So we're probably going to have to build more power plants to charge these vehicles and lay the infrastructure. So that's a whole nother thing that we're gonna have to deal with. And then some of the consumer concerns might be uh, that people have range anxiety. They're scared that they're not going to get to the point they're trying to get to in their vehicle, charging accessibility, and of course, affordability. However, EVs represented about 15% of global sales in 2023. Industry forecasts predict significant growth to 40 to 50% by 2030. And in California, all new passenger car trucks and SUVs in California will be zero emission vehicles by 2035. And on the slide, you can see there's some acronyms that you should become familiar with. So ICE is internal combustion engines, ZEV, zero emission vehicle, HEV, plug-in electric vehicles, BEV, battery electric vehicles, and FCEVs are the fuel cell electric vehicles that run on hydrogen. Um, in the chat, I am going to drop in a PDF of frequently asked questions that can be answered by this document from the California Air Resources Board. So just putting that in the chat. Next, Marty's going to go ahead and give an overview of the NSF grant that we've obtained. Marty, you're muted.
Okay, sorry about that. So the National Science Foundation grant has just been an outstanding thing for our college, but we really couldn't have done it without the National Science Foundation program and sponsorship of a group called Mentor Connect. And when we applied for the grant, they reviewed what we had and they supported us through a couple of conventions, and we had mentor partners that we could run all of our technical parts through. We had a convention in New Orleans, then there was a convention in Atlanta, and Ryan and I both went to those, and it was great support. So the overview of the grant is one thing, but some of you are probably wondering, why we would go after this. So if, the Toyota Prius has been around a long time, the Tesla has been around quite a while. These manufacturers will train technicians that work for their dealership, but they won't train anybody else. And so one of the things at Miramar we look at pretty carefully is how can we better serve our students that work for shops in underserved communities? And that was one of the big focuses of this grant. And I think it's probably one of the reasons that we were successful in doing this. So EVs, whether they're hybrid electric, battery electric, any of them, they're different than virtually every type of car that's out there. And lots of us have electric vehicles or hybrid vehicles. But to work on them requires a lot of training. There is a very serious high voltage shock hazard in these cars. So it's imperative that these technicians really learn this stuff before they go putting their hands on it, because there actually is a shock and death hazard from working on the cars. So we presented all that to Mentor Connect, and they worked with us and actually put us at the table with another college in Minnesota that was developing a very similar program. So we kind of all work together. And one of the great things about Mentor Connect is that they want you to get the grant. It's not like they're working against you at all. They're, what can we do to help you? Every turn, it's like, hey, this is going to be due next week. This is what it needs to have in it. And it's just been an outstanding experience. And Ryan and I were recently at a conference in Washington, D.C., and saw all the Mentor Connect people who helped us. And it was great to shake their hand and say, thanks for all your help. We couldn't have done it without you. So it's been a great relationship. We have EV classes at Miramar now, but they're fairly basic. So this grant is going to allow us to expand on those classes and get into the more complex parts of electric vehicles. So as I say, it's similar skill set to automotive generally, but it is there's a whole bunch more that they have to learn. So been a good thing for us. Okay, so Mentor Connect's biggest thing was to tell us what the grant process was about. And I've written Perkins grants and we've administered a sector grant and a few things like that. So I'm a little new to it. But boy, they were literally there to help us at every turn. And so we would submit portions of this proposal and they would critique it and say, this would be a better way to say this. I know you know this, but you need to put it into language that someone who's not an EV professional would be able to read. It's been worked out really well. So Mentor Connect is it's actually funded and sponsored by the National Science Foundation. And lots of you have been involved with grants, and a lot of them don't really work very hard to help you, but this is a totally different thing. It's funded by the NSF-ATE program, which is Advanced Technological Education, and it's managed at Florence Darlington Technical College in South Carolina. And so their whole mission is to provide assistance to two-year colleges that are new to ATE grants. And then they'll expect us over the 3 years of this grant to present at future conferences and help the other schools that are submitting similar proposals. So it's a great thing. And it's a 3-year commitment. It's $270,000+. They will allow some additions to this in addition to that money. We're looking to probably buy an extra electric vehicle so that we have enough vehicles when the classes go that students will be able to work on them and, not enormous numbers, because safety is a huge thing here. So, yeah, it's hard to, I don't think it would have been possible without Mentor Connect. They're just great people.
So in the first phase of the grant, we've begun work on creating curriculum for our intro to hybrid and intro to high voltage safety courses. And we should have these courses completed by the summer of 2025. Then we'll begin the process of walking these through our local and district community curriculum committees. We've also formed a EV hybrid, excuse me, specific advisory board in collaboration with Mobilize California. And we've met one time so far. There has been other small meetings, but we haven't met as a focus group since our previous meeting a few months ago. And then through the NSF, we have personally met with many different colleges who are in the process of creating their EV programs, and these colleges have been very kind in sharing their curriculum and all the resources that they've found through NSF. So this is a great collaborative project. And in our last meeting in Washington, D.C., we spent a couple hours with each of our cohorts in our area. So we ended up talking to probably 5 or 6 different um, automotive programs who are currently transitioning their programs over to EV. So that was super helpful, just seeing what everybody else is doing, seeing what fits for them, and how we can make that happen here at Miramar. So also through this grant funding, we'll also be attending the National Electric Vehicle Consortium Conference in February. This conference is going to be promoting the interaction of academic agencies from California and industry experts across all electric vehicle disciplines. In addition to the NSF grant funds, we will be leveraging other funds such as Perkins and Regional Strong Workforce Sector grants. And of course, we're going to be going after other grant funds to try and help fund this, because as Marty stated, it's very expensive to not only operate, but to start from scratch and get all the equipment and the vehicles we need to make this happen. So how are we going to spend this money? That's our next slide here. So through what we've been doing with the NSF, we've identified a number of high quality EV instructor training programs, and we're going to be attending these trainings throughout the grant timeline. For example, we've identified a course offered by Weber State in Utah that consists of an online foundations course, and then we go to Utah for 3 days for in-person hands-on instruction. They are pretty much the gold standard for EV training. However, I'm not sure exactly where they got a majority of their funding, but they have probably $4 or $5 million worth of shop and EV stuff that they have, and they're training. A lot of the people that we've spoke with, they highly recommend doing this program and learning as much as you can from the people at Weber State. And so through this grant timeline, we've committed to creating a total of 4 courses: Introduction to Hybrid and Electric Vehicle Systems, Introduction to High Voltage Safety, Advanced Hybrid and Electric Vehicle Technology. And we've also created, or will be creating, a high school summer bridge course that we should be running in the second year of our grant. And we will be running those with Mira Mesa High School or in conjunction with Mira Mesa High School and Madison High School, our 2 local schools. And let's see here. And so we're going to use these summer bridges as a way to market our new program and get people that wouldn't traditionally be in an automotive program. So we will be inviting a lot of engineering students. We'd like to see at least half of our students come from engineering courses that are being offered by our local school district. So San Diego Unified, they have a strong engineering program there, and we'd like to try and grab some of those students and introduce them to the electric vehicles. And so we've already created an MOU with our school sites. We'll be using high schools, facilities, instructors, and they do have some equipment that we would be using, and it's called the Switch Lab, and that's already owned by San Diego Unified. So we're really trying to work hard to build that bridge between high school and our college. And that will leave us to the lessons learned by Marty here.
Okay, so one thing that Ryan and I can certainly say is it takes a village. And he and I are the technical experts on this. We both have extensive automotive electrical background. But EVs is taking it a step forward, and there's a lot to it. But you can have all the technical people, But if you don't have great administration and you don't have support from administration, it's very difficult to get this off the ground. We're very fortunate to have Claudia and Jen and all of the people in our administration, and Wes Lundberg, our president, totally supportive of all of this, because they all have the vision and they can see where these projects are going. And so they're also aware of other pending grants. So any of this kind of stuff that we may not hear about as instructors, they're on it. And both Claudia and Jen are, very proactive in moving all of this forward. That allows Ryan and I to spend more time on the technical parts of it, which are really huge when you talk about EVs, how complex they are. Tesla's virtually a rolling computer. They're super complex vehicles, and it takes a very high level person to be able to fix one of those. So it's nice to have all of that. And the other shout out I'd like to make is the National Science Foundation. We have a grant administrator, Dr. Mike Davis, and he's been great. We met with him in Washington, D.C., and he's encouraged us to move money where we need to, and encouraged us to apply to get another electric vehicle, even though that wasn't part of the original grant. The nice thing about this whole deal is they all want you to succeed, and they want to do everything that they can to support you. And for Ryan and I, looking to move this forward, and we identified this need several years ago, and to have so many people saying, hey, what can we do to help? That's what really makes it for us. Now, if anybody's interested in Mentor Connect and what they can do, we've put the contact information there for Emery DeWitt. She is the project manager, and you can get her at that email, and she's back in South Carolina as well. So, some great people we've dealt with, and we've still got another year and a half to go or 2.5 years to go on the grant. So it's going really well. Do you have any questions for us? Any of us?
I have a question. This is John Morgan from Arizona. I'm interested to see, because you were talking about how our dealerships are the ones that send their people on to the private schools. We've run into this, and our advisory board has kind of gone against us going all in on this right now, because they're not even sure what the big motor companies are going to do with a lot of them. Like you saw what happened with Ford's debacle on EV. There's a lot of pressure for us to do this from more of the independents. It's costly, as you would say. So we're sort of in this quandary right now of go, no go, because we're even talking with our power providers in Arizona, APS, which we're selling 90% of our power to you guys over in California. So now we're having to pull a line from New Mexico to accommodate the current needs. And they're telling us when we hit 25% EV in Arizona, it's over, because we don't have the power, and it's going to take us 10 years on average to commission a plant. So knowing that, what are some things that you guys have learned? Because you have a much more aggressive timeline in California with going straight EV. And now our advisory boards are advising us against going all in on EV, that they feel like it's going to shift back more towards the hybrids. So just your thoughts on that.
Well, our thoughts is that the skill set to work on a hybrid and the skill set to work on a battery electric, the shock hazard is the same in both, and there's a lot of parallels. So adding it to what we have, we're not talking about taking away our engines class or brakes class or anything like that. This is just more that they need to know in order to safely work on EVs. But the manufacturers, they could care less about anybody other than their own techs. But what does somebody do who's driving a 20-year-old Prius? Can they take that to just any repair shop? The problem is that there's so many technicians out there that have no training on it. It's actually dangerous for them to work on those cars. Not everything on the cars, but anything to do with the high voltage systems. It's a huge deal. So it's been very well received, and our students are excited about the EV classes. Our energy costs in California, a lot of us have solar, and that's a great investment here because electricity's so expensive. But as Ryan said too, the infrastructure is a huge problem. Maybe 2035 is a little optimistic, but we're moving toward it. So, and I think everybody's situation is different, but in California, we're being mandated for it. So
And John, I found something that was very interesting. There was a college in New York State. They are not only running an EV program, so they're concentrating on the car, but they're also have classes on the EV charging system installations. And so they're taking those electricians and training them how to specifically wire those charging stations into houses, and also the large charging stations like you see that Tesla has been building out. So those two programs are running in conjunction with each other. I found that to be very interesting.
Yeah, we did have a community college down in Yuma start the charging stations maintenance and installation program like that. So I kind of familiar with what you're talking about there. Did you guys in your grant, did you propose, because what I'm hearing is like on the Prius, it's older, not enough techs with understanding. Did you propose in there training for those who are already in industry, or just you straight added this into your existing program as an add-on with those classes?
We're getting techs from industry that are being sent by their employers to come. So for us, we won't let them into an EV class until they've had basic electrical and advanced electrical. They have to understand how electricity works before they're prepared to work on higher voltages. So that's our deal. And we have even dealerships will send their techs to our school for this type of training. And it prepares them really well to work on what they have. But as far as getting the manufacturers behind it, that's a tough call. And so a manufacturer, will provide the equipment to train their own techs, but they're not going to provide anything for an independent shop to train their techs. But it's not realistic for the Toyota dealer to think that somebody with a 20-year-old Prius is going to bring it there. At least that's what we're seeing. And that's what our independent shop advisory board members are saying too, is they want training for this stuff. And it's very difficult for them to obtain.
Thank you.
I see, Ben, you have your hand up. Oh, I'm sorry, John, were you finished?
No, I just was saying thank you.
Oh, Dr. Gamboa, nice to see you.
Oh, not yet. So we're working with some of our local high school partners. One of our high school partners has already transitioned to an EV program. So we're running some dual enrollment with them on the EV curriculum side. What, if anything, how does the grant work with our K-12 partners if we're a recipient? Are there some allowable costs with dual enrollment or with other types of partnerships? I know you had Summer Bridge built into yours. Are you thinking of different ways? Are those allowable? How can we make that work on that pathway development?
I'll answer that one. I believe that, Ben, very good to see you. It's been a minute, but it's I don't believe that we have any restriction in let me say it this way. The funding is very flexible. So I didn't see anything in our grant documents that would prevent us from hiring as long as they meet minimum quals. So for us, they need an AA degree and 6 years experience. But as long as we can hire them as an adjunct professor, then we can use that funding to run classes on a different campus. Whereas like for example, I'm going to run one of these summer bridges. I'm an employee of Miramar College. And then Omar Sevilla, he is a full-time high school instructor, and then he teaches for us as an adjunct in our program. So it's so streamlined. It made it really easy to do that. I'm sure that if you had an MOU in place that you could actually use some of the grant funding to buy um, equipment and curriculum that you might use to operate that program. But NSF is really trying to make us share everything that we're doing. So I'd be more than happy, once we get this going, the curriculum will already be in place. So we'll be more than happy to share that with you. So if that would be helpful. But I think NSF, like Marty was saying, they are very flexible in what they allow.
Other questions for our folks? I have one, if you don't mind. Talk to us about the process of pulling people together around the table that have, Marty and Ryan have the content expertise and others have budget expertise. Can you talk to us a little bit about what the secret sauce might have been to get you to yes? Because these are big undertakings, even if you have someone helping you and even if you have mentors, but just anything that you can share with folks as they start to think about their own journey.
I think I could speak to this. Ryan and I are the subject matter guys, and John Kropp did a lot of the writing on this. And he was our grant writer on this and special projects manager at the time. And he worked tirelessly. So a really, really good grant writer that understands the process is imperative. But he said, look, I can't do it without you guys. I have to understand all of the ins and outs and the technical part of this thing. So yeah, we all worked together, and we met, can't even count how many times. So, but no, that's necessary. A good external evaluator that knows what they're doing, that's another necessary thing. And Janet has been involved. She's up at Cerritos College and involved with all kinds of different things. I think a lot of you probably know her. And having her be our evaluator is really good. So, and help from administration. We've got a dean and associate dean that look at this and go, okay, let's figure a way to make that happen. And people with positive attitudes on your team, that's a great thing to have. Anything to add, Ryan?
No, I think that's great. Like you said, we got a chance to work with a lot of amazing people. How we put that team together, it kind of coalesced, I think from starting with our dean. And it just like we got to work with some really amazing people. And when we got to NSF through this Mentor Connect, they also placed us with some other amazing people, and it really got the ball rolling really quick. So I think it all started here locally with our deans and coming down, and then when we got to the New Orleans um, meeting, we got to meet with 3 or 4 different colleges that were doing the same thing, and we worked really hard. There was 2 days of a lot of work that went into really get to flesh out our grant. So, and it was great. We actually had, and it got us away from campus for that minute to actually concentrate where we had no choice. We had to work on this project. So that was great.
Ryan, that's such a great point about actually having brain space away from what you do every day all the time to get those creative juices going, and taking that subject matter knowledge and then being with other folks that have done this work before and being in a different space is so critical, because we just try to add stuff on top of what we're already doing, and we wonder why we don't think of fresh new ideas every 4 minutes, right? But you really do have to invest in people and give them time. And I'm glad that you had the support to do that, because it's really critical. And Claudia, I saw that you were going to jump in too.
Well, I was just going to add that additionally, I think, and maybe they're not giving themselves enough credit for this because they've been the ones talking, but the relationships that Marty and Ryan have with the rest of their team, right, to get the rest of their faculty on board, has been really, really huge, because it's a trust in that the workload that comes after you actually get the grant, right? Because it's one piece of trying to get it, right? There's a lot of work involved there, and then you do get it, and that realization of what that looks like as well. The support doesn't end at applying for the grant. It really has to be all areas. So Marty and Ryan have really worked on bringing to the table the rest of the faculty from their team, but also they run really good advisory boards. Just for being a CT program, we have our advisory boards. They run really good advisory boards. They've had industry relationships and folks that they could really trust to run things by and say, hey, what do you all think of this? You know, here's what we're trying to do. As a dean, I've seen nothing but support from their relationships and folks that they've brought to the table. And it's funny because one of the slides they spoke about leveraging all other funding, right? And we've been leveraging strong workforce sector projects through the region, and our Perkins as well. But we, without even trying, have also been tapped to so many other opportunities. For example, Environmental Protection Agency grants that are coming up, and a lot of other things that fold into this work. And now we're having to say, like, okay, how many of these do we take on? You know, capacity for sure, being honest with ourselves as a team, all the way from our president to our adjuncts that are going to be involved in the work, you know, because we know that it's a stretch. So it's exciting work. I think that's what really gets people to the table. It's exciting work, and yeah, we are a positive team. Marty, I guess you're right. We are pretty optimistic. We're more glass half full folks.
You have to be.
Thank you so much. Any other questions from folks that are attending? Well, I want to just personally thank the team from San Diego Miramar College, and I am so excited to see this program flourishing at Miramar. First of all, I just think it's amazing, and excited to see that the kinds of resources, the Mentor Connect resources, the convenings that you talked about, Marty and Ryan, of being in spaces with people who are just there to cheer you on. When I took on this role to think about doing the Community College Presidents Initiative, that's exactly what I have discovered as well. People just want to put money into the hands of the folks that are doing this work so that students get the programs that they need. And it's exciting work. And I hope that those of you who are attending today took good notes, although we will send you the recording of our webinar today so you can pick up all the good nuggets. And as usual, it's all about people being personally committed, engaged, and the relationships you have with each other, and that you take the time to sit down around that table and create that student-centered approach. So I, for one, will be in the market soon for, I currently have a hybrid, so trying to figure out, can I make that jump? So I'm feeling much more confident today that I can make that jump. But anyway, excited that that you're moving forward with this. I did put the SurveyMonkey survey in one more time. If you joined us late, it helps us to have you fill that out, because then we know who was here today. So if you can do that, that's great. Now that you've attended, you will continue to get information from us. We do a webinar like this once a semester. So we'll be looking for someone in the spring as well to present what they're doing with their grant, or some facet of NSF-ATE that can be really helpful to colleges as you think about doing this work. So thank you all for attending today. And we look forward to seeing you in the spring when we talk to another college who's doing this fantastic work. Everyone, thank you so much. Stay safe. Have a great rest of your week.
Thanks,
Thank
Pam.
you.
Thank you, Dr. Luster.